Alright, assalamu alaikum guys. I'm here with a gentleman I spoke to before. What's your name?
Felix.
Felix. I spoke to Felix before, but he's been training. He's got some new arguments. It looks like it. He's done his homework. He's back. It might be a knockout. I'm joking. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the contingency argument.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're familiar with it.
Well, yeah, kind of. I'll be honest. I haven't come to the park in 3-4 months, but yeah.
Could you briefly explain to me your understanding of the contingency argument?
Yes. So yeah, we say that, for example, from what I remember from my notes, is basically we have 3 types of this is existence or possibilities. I can't remember which way it was. I think there's 3 kinds of possibilities. Yeah. What's the 3 types of existence? So basically, there is an impossible existence, there's possible existence, and there's necessary existence.
Right.
That's it. So impossible existence is to have a square triangle. Would you accept that a square triangle is an impossible existence?
Yeah, because square and triangle are defined.
Yeah.
To not
One's
be like
one's 3 angles, one's 4 angles. Yeah. So then we have possible existence. Possible existence is things like us, the universe, the planet Earth, Mars, the tree, the bottle, the camera. These are things that are possible. They are contingent. So they rely on other things for their existence.
When you say they rely on other things for their existence,
Yes.
what do you mean by that?
Very simple. For them to exist, they need external factors. They rely. That's why we say they're contingent. They are dependent on they are dependent on other things for their existence.
Right.
For example, like a mother can give birth to a child, can cause the child, but the child is not dependent on the mother to survive.
But so you wouldn't say the child is contingent on the mother to exist?
Yes, but it is dependent on other things to exist. Well, the mother give cause.
In this map.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a many to one map where one thing might need many things to.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the question of
No, here, because it gets confusing.
survival and existence are 2 different things in a sense. Like for a child to come into existence,
Yes.
it needed its mother and father to have sex, and then certain nutrients inside the mother's
Exactly.
body.
It's a causation, but it's not really a dependency.
Once it's born into the world,
Yeah.
now it kind of needs different things
Yeah.
to survive.
Yeah.
Just maybe slightly different.
May I just join this
Yeah, sure,
conversation?
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so it's dependent, yeah.
Yeah.
So the things that we have dependent things in our unit that are contingent on other things for us. That's why we say that you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. You require a necessary being to give rise to all of those things.
Well, hold on. Why can't you have an infinite regress?
You can't, because how can you have an infinite? If you had an infinite regress of dependent things, you would never have the what we have here today. Because there were an infinite regress that for going to eternal, it fell to infinite regress.
So you think the universe is finite in time?
Yes, it has to be.
Has to be.
Yes, because it also has the attributes that it's contingent, which is my other argument.
What?
For example, it's composed of parts, or composed of pieces, and it can be any other way.
Couldn't be any other way.
It could be any way.
Could be.
That's
Could
what.
be
Yeah,
any other way.
that's why it's contingent. You can't, because this man here is wanted to ask.
Okay.
You ask him, but I think he's got a script that he needs to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you've actually got a script.
Of course, he's coming.
Well, it's not really my script.
But he doesn't know my defense is impregnable. I'm joking. I'm Alexander. What is it? Praise be to Allah.
Talk to him about the age of Aisha because he was having a.
We spoke about it so many times. No,
So you're saying everything is dependent or contingent upon something else.
Yeah.
Except.
Okay, so we're seeing that.
Except for one thing.
Yeah.
Which sort of precedes everything.
No, we're saying basically that
No.
because there are dependent things within our universe, and dependency is something that depends on something else for its existence, something that is composed of pieces and something that can be any other way. Therefore, we say that we require a necessary being that is independent, self-sufficient, and gave rise to these dependent things.
Right,
So
okay.
it's a necessity. So that's what we're saying it's a necessary being because it requires that.
I understand. That step in the argument is the big leap for me.
Yeah.
Where you say you have all these contingent things, so we need this being that's necessary.
Yeah.
And I can't remember all the attributes you gave
Yeah.
to me. What justification allows you to make that leap?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, it's very simple. The argument of contingency is very simple. We cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. Therefore, we require a necessary being. Now, for example, very simple question. We can cut to the chase. Yeah. Do you believe the universe is dependent or independent?
Undecided.
What does that mean?
It means I think the scientific inquiry that would allow me to answer that question.
What's the scientific inquiry?
Has not been concluded. Well, we have a theory of, we have all this kind of physical theories about how the universe came into being. We have evidence. We have the red shift. We have the cosmic microwave background.
That's fine. These are all theories.
Which is all these things which give us evidence of the Big Bang.
That's fine. These are all theories. But what I'm saying is very simple. The universe is either dependent or independent. It's a very simple question. Like either you're going to say that the universe is dependent or it's independent.
Sure. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is because this all seems to depend on the nature of the Big Bang or what, if anything, preceded the Big Bang.
But it's irrelevant to the equation.
Why
What
is it
preceded
relevant?
before it
Why
or
is it
after it,
relevant?
it's very simple. It's either dependent or independent. It's not like a trick question. It's just simple.
No,
It's
yes,
dependent or
I
independent.
understand, but I'm saying I can't answer the question.
Well, if you can't answer the question, then we cannot go forward because it just now everything's on because you're not answering a very simple question, which is either the universe you can say is independent.
I can't answer the question because I don't.
Okay, then we can't move forward.
I don't have access to the knowledge of the entire universe.
You don't need to. I speak to many atheists. They'll come and say, I believe the universe is independent, meaning that it is free from any need. The universe is the necessary thing. And I say, oh, well, okay, let's talk about that. Or they come and say, well, the universe is dependent. I say, well, let's talk about that. So if you're choosing not to, then the argument just stops here. There's nothing else I can do forward that can help you.
Well, I don't see what. So you don't think it's ever correct to say I don't know?
No, not correct. It's just I believe it's sometimes not yourself, but some atheists use it as a cop out. It's just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. It's okay. I respect it, but what I'm saying is that is the universe.
Because if someone proposes an argument.
Yeah.
In order to contend with it, I don't need to necessarily propose a counter argument.
I don't want to counter.
I can just propose, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Exactly, like you say that God doesn't exist. That's an extraordinary claim that requires extraordinary evidence. So what I'm saying is very simple. The universe is either dependent or independent. If you say I do not know, the conversation ends here because it can't go forward. It's like you're saying I do not know and I can't answer. I say I'll respect that.
What's an end? Have to end the conversation.
Well, of course. What am I going to say anyway? Okay.
It means there are other lines of inquiry.
Okay. No, there isn't. The universe is either dependent or independent. There is dependent, independent. I don't know. I don't know. Is okay. Finished. The discussion done.
Is there? You don't know about the law of the excluded middle?
What's the law of the excluded middle?
The idea that given a binary, or not necessarily binary, a finite set of possibilities to answer a question, there may always be a possibility you haven't considered.
No problem. Dependent, independent. I don't know. Give me a fourth one.
I don't know that in this particular example that is the case.
Okay.
And even if it were, I don't know what those other possibilities would be.
Okay, so let's talk with what we know. Dependent, independent. I don't know. Which one are you going with? I don't know. Okay, so what I'm saying is, then the conversation ends here. There's nothing I can do. I'm just, you don't know, then I'll just say that's fine. I respect you don't want to know or you think you don't know, okay? The conversation...
Both ways, that's what he's trying to say. It's both ways. If it's true for him, it's also true for you, right?
No, because he said I don't know. I'm saying I know. I know that the universe is not independent. So I'm asking him, is it dependent or independent? He's saying I don't know. I go, well, okay, the conversation has to end here because we can't go forward. It's like...
so you're saying the universe is not... You're saying the universe is dependent?
Yeah.
On this necessary...
No. I believe it is dependent for my reasons, but I'm saying I need to know what you believe so we can discuss that. Because you're saying I don't know, then I'm saying, okay, there's no discussion. I'm going to have to pray.
But I think there's something interesting there because you're assigning all those traits to this being which you assert the universe is dependent on.
I can come to why I'm doing that.
Now I could argue that the universe has all those traits.
Okay, thank you. Good.
So the universe
is independent. Perfect.
Is independent. Doesn't need to
Perfect.
depend on anything.
Yes, good.
So what? Now I'm not necessarily making that claim.
No, you have to make that claim.
But what gives you the ability to
decide
good. So what I'm
those
saying, traits are tied to the universe?
Okay, good. So what I'm saying is this, the reason why you're saying that is because if you say dependent, then you're admitting that it depends on something. If you say it's independent, now you've admitted that we require something that is independent. All you've done is ascribe it to the universe, and all I have to do is prove to you why the universe is not independent, it's dependent.
But even if I say the universe is dependent on something,
yes.
Why does that thing have to be God?
Okay, both of them. No, not God. I haven't gone to God there. I want to make you a deist before I make you a theist. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this: when you come and say it is dependent, the question I'll ask you is, what does it depend on? I'm not bringing God to the picture just yet. So what I'm saying is, I will say to you, what does it depend on? It cannot depend on something that depends on something else. It depends on something which is infinite regress. That's a fallacy. So then, if you said to me, it is independent, then I'll say to you, good. You have affirmed a necessary being. All you did is ascribe it to the universe. Now I'm going to prove to you why it cannot be the universe. Then you're going to have to say, okay, once you've proven to me, then we're going to say, well, the necessary being has to be something outside the universe. Then we're going to go and make our pathway to God. So I'm going to go, just for the sake of the discussion here, that you say that, like you said, oh, let's suppose it is independent. Good. So when you claim, or when you want to say with the argument, say it's independent, you have acknowledged what? That we require a necessary being. All you've done is ascribed it to the universe. Now I'm going to tell you why the universe cannot be necessary and it's not independent. Why? Because the universe is composed of pieces. The universe could be any other way.
What do you mean it's composed of pieces?
Pieces. Like, for example, we're a piece of it. Like, for example, the stars, dark matter, dark energy. These are all these elements that are in place that is composed by.
Do you not the universe is all of those things?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's composed of these pieces.
Right, but you can see it as being composed of all these pieces, or you can see it as being a singular entity.
No, that's fine, but it's still composed of that. For example, we have it's energy. Yeah. We have a set amount of energy within our universe. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That energy is pieces. It's composed by those pieces. That's what makes our universe. Anything that is composed by pieces cannot be independent. Point number 2.
Why not?
Because it cannot be, because it has the attributes of being any other way. So we can look, the fact that there's a set amount.
I don't see. So you're saying that the fact that there are, not countless, but
Yes.
a huge number of many
Yes.
possible configurations
Yes, that's-
for the universe,
yes.
in terms of where the energy and the matter
Yes.
is, the fundamental constants,
Yes.
etc., all these
Yes,
things.
yes.
Why does that mean it can't be?
Because it's composed,
independent?
because it's limited. It shows that because there's a set amount of it, it shows its limitations. It is dependent. That is a dependency right there. Even though, like, for example,
See, this is where I'm not following you.
you don't need to follow it. I'm saying that it's
Well,
very simple.
well, in
Anything
order-
that's
well, in order for the argument
my
to make
definition,
sense.
my definition, anything that is
Someone needs to
composed.
follow it.
No. Well, the audience can follow it. So the point is this: that anything that is composed of pieces cannot be independent, and anything that can be any other way. For example, we could have 5 trillion extra galaxies on up in our universe. It can be any other way. Therefore, it cannot be independent. We say the independent being is not composed of pieces, and it cannot be any other way. That's the reason why the universe is dependent. What does it depend on? Is the necessary being.
Sounds like what you're talking about then is some kind of determinism, right? That if the universe were independent, that it would have to be one specific way, as in the universe would have to have been deterministic from the start. Is that what you're saying?
That what you're talking about there, it's a bit different. You're talking about the qadr, like what God has written, and that's how it is.
But when you're talking about the universe being this way or that way,
Yeah.
what you're kind of really talking about is it deterministic or not, right?
Yeah, well, we're saying that it cannot be any other. Anything that can be any other way is dependent. We say God cannot be any other way. We're saying the necessary being. The reason I'm doing this is to prove to you that the universe is dependent, and if it is dependent, then it requires something that it depends on, and it cannot depend on something that depends on something else. It has to depend on something that is independent.
Do you think?
Therefore, that's the necessary being.
Do you think the universe is unique?
Is what?
Do you think there's one universe, or do you think there could
No.
be several?
We believe in the necessary being, which is God Almighty. He could create. He's a creator. He can create many.
Create many universes.
Many. No, I'm saying he has the ability to do that.
Sure.
I'm talking about our universe.
So if a cosmologist
Yeah.
showed you evidence that there are several universes,
No problem.
perhaps in series,
Yeah,
like
no
a
problem.
sort of
Multiverse theory,
contracting,
yeah.
expanding, or
Yeah.
a sort of in parallel multiverse theory, and different universes
No
in this
problem.
model have different
Yeah.
fundamental constants,
Yeah.
different amounts of matter and
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
Would you not? So that would show, okay, universes can be lots of different ways.
Yeah, exactly. Which shows that they're still dependent. Because they're multiple universe with different dimensions, whatever it is still dependent. If it's anything that is composed of pieces and can be any other way, is dependent. So my argument, if there's 1 trillion universes, it's still dependent. So I have to ask the question: all these universes, they are dependent. What do they depend on? The necessary being that is independent, self-sufficient, and cannot be any other way. So we say that necessary being is the one that gave rise to all these universes.
Do you think that the universe, or just that reality itself, knows about this concept of dependence and independence?
It's irrelevant to me. What if the
Why
what,
is that- why is
it's,
that-
it's
why
irrelevant
is-
to me if
why
it
is
knows
that?
or it doesn't know.
Well, no, I don't think. Well, I don't think it is irrelevant because.
Why is it
because-
relevant for me?
Because you're asserting this model of contingency of
Yeah.
X is dependent on Y is
Yeah.
dependent on Z, etc. So that you could take, in theory, any object or process or I don't know what you want to draw lines around exactly, and you could trace it back to something which would take you to the
Necessary being.
to the necessary being, right? But that's you kind of drawing lines around things in a very human way, kind of defining objects. The universe doesn't really know what these objects are.
I don't care what the universe knows. I'm talking about what you know.
Why
You're
don't-
using your
why
logic and
don't- why don't-
rationality
why don't you care
because
about what
because
the universe
because
is?
of course I'm not going to care about the universe because I don't believe the universe has a conscience. So I'm talking to someone who has a conscious being who can make rational decisions, which is yourself.
Right, but you do believe, presumably, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the necessary being that precedes the universe has a conscience.
No, we don't say conscious. We say that he has a will. He has a will that he wills the universe to come to be. Well, the consciousness, because consciousness. What does consciousness mean? What's the definition? We don't ascribe things like necessarily like, you know, to God in that sense. So we're seeing that I don't need to know that. You know, for example, that you exist. You're speaking to me. Yes, you're using your rationality.
So now there is something that you don't need to know.
Yes.
Whereas previously, when you told me that I don't need to know what the
Yeah.
cause of the universe is, you said that was strange of me. But you
What cause of the universe?
But you don't need to know
What cause of the universe?
the necessary being, or not even the necessary
No, I said
being.
he has. I said he has a will. I said
precedes.
I can't say consciousness.
So there's something you don't know.
No, I do know that he exists. Like I exist and
But-
he exists.
no,
My existence
but
and his
yes,
existence is not
yes,
the same thing.
Yes, but you don't.
But I'm not
know-
going to say he has a
Yes,
consciousness.
yes, but you don't know whether he has a consciousness.
Oh no, I
or
know his
whether-
attributes, but I don't know his internal like.
No, you don't
yeah.
know the mind of. No,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm not expecting you to know
Yeah,
the mind of God.
that's what I'm
if
saying.
God existed.
Yeah.
But it seems to me you don't even seem to know what the nature, what the structure. Of
No. We know. For example, we
How
know
do you know?
attributes. Like
How
for
do you
example, that's the reason why when we say there's a necessary being, when we prove that by proving that the universe is dependent, now that necessary being has to have certain attributes. Why? Because if he is the one that the universe depends on, that means he willed. He has the power of will. So now we're giving attributes to that God. We're making it now personal. We're coming to theism now, which is what? That God had this necessary being, shall I say, has the power of willing something. So he willed the universe to be. So it means he has a will. There is information in the universe. That means he has to be the all-knowing. There is power in the universe. He has to be the all-powerful. So what I'm saying is now,
why does he have to be
very
all-knowing?
simple. When you
Because
look at a picture,
surely someone could create some.
No.
Because I could create.
someone?
I could create a computer simulation
Yes.
of something.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily know all the possible pieces of information.
yeah, that's because
inside
you're a
that
human being.
simulation
But
there are to know.
God knows everything.
Why does God know?
Because he has to, because he's a necessary. Because he's necessary, he cannot have a deficiency of not knowing. That's why we say he has to be the all-knowing. So do you see when we give these attributes to God is because he is ultimately perfect. The necessary being is the absolute source where everything began and it stops. So that's why we're saying he has to have a will, he has to be all-knowing, he is the all-powerful. This is, in a nutshell, that's what I mean.
I
That's what,
just don't get how you're reverse engineering that.
I'm reverse engineering.
You seem to be saying that we're here and the universe we're in
Yep,
has to have
it's
this
dependent, yep.
necessary,
Yep.
has to be contingent on
Perfect.
this necessary being.
Yep.
But you seem to be arguing that through this kind of general principle of contingency.
yeah. I mean, I think
But,
it makes,
if you apply the principle more generally, I mean, can you point to a more mundane example of
No.
some of X that's contingent on Y,
No,
where
no.
X knows about?
no, I think it's very simple.
Because, no, right. Because,
I think it's very simple.
Because you're necessary being God.
Is Jabby's his dawah table still there? Because I had my